What's up, everybody? My name is Gilbert Church. I'm a high school strength and conditioning coach. I'm a PE teacher in Harlem, and today we're going to be talking about what exercises should I do to build muscle. Now, keep in mind, any exercise that you do can potentially build some muscle. However, some exercises are better than others because they're more time efficient, because they're going to elicit a great response, and they're going to make you build more muscle versus other exercises. And today we're going to sort of delineate between what those are and what those aren't. When we're talking about sipping from the gains nectar tree, we want to make sure we're being as efficient as humanly possible. So today we are going to be talking about what exercises you should be thinking about and trying to perfect the technique on when it comes to putting on muscle, and let's start talking about it right now. So when we're talking about exercises that build muscle, we are going to separate them into two groups: single joint exercises versus multi-joint exercises. And right from the get-go, I'm going to tell you the most important exercises for building muscle are right here: multi-joint exercises. That is where the biggest bang for your buck is going to come from if you intend on trying to put on some size in a good way. But before we dive into why they're so great, let's talk about the difference between these two. It's all in the name. Single joint exercises is just that. Exercises based around a single joint. Perfect example is the bicep curl. Someone takes a weight, they start curling it up, they start bringing it back down, and you'll notice that all the movement is happening around one joint, the good old elbow. Nothing else is moving from a joint perspective. Right? That is where the vast majority of the work is happening, and that's why the contraction is happening there. We can take a look at tricep extensions. Someone's leaning back. Again, all of that movement is happening at the elbow. The extension is happening because the tricep is there. The tricep is in play because they're lying on their back and gravity is fighting against them. That's a tricep extension. Again, a single joint movement. You could look at things like single leg kickbacks. Again, that's an isolation movement for the glute, right? Where you're working basically at just the hip joint. The knee is moving, but there's nothing weighted on the knee that makes it a multi-joint movement. There are plenty of single joint exercises. Lots of them are effective. And the beauty behind them is that you can actually isolate the muscle that you want to work on, right? If you want to build your biceps, you know you got to do some bicep curls. If you want to do some calves, you got to make sure that you do some calf raises and effectively get those sore. These are isolation movements where they take everything else out of it and they let you focus on them. They're fairly easy to perform, and they don't require too much recovery either. Doing a ton of bicep curls, I'm going to tell you, it doesn't beat you up that much. Now, with that said, because single joint movements don't beat you up that much, or they aren't that taxing, or they aren't that hard to accomplish compared to multi-joint exercises, your body doesn't have to adapt as hard. Remember, your body is an adaptation machine. Physical stress happens, your body has to adapt to that physical stress. If we do this properly with good nutrition and sleep, typically that comes in the form of some good muscle. Now, let's start talking about multi-joint exercises. Multi-joint exercises are awesome. They are simply awesome. You hear me say squat, deadlift, bench all the time in prior videos, and it's because those are the ones that get the biggest bang for the buck. Those are actually known as the big three in bodybuilding world and in powerlifting world. If you take a look at a squat, just think about all the joints and all the musculature involved. Someone goes up to the rack, they unrack it, they have to walk it back. Their arms are pressing up into the bar. Their back is flexed because they actually have to keep a stable rack position there. When they go down, they have to pull their rib cage down and stay tight as they squat. Flexion is happening at the knee and at the hip simultaneously. Quads are involved. Glutes are involved. Hamstrings are involved. The squat is this beautiful king of exercises because it involves so much work while it's happening. It's incredibly taxing, and it makes your body have to adapt very quickly if you are going to perform that movement again. And hopefully, again, with proper sleep and proper nutrition, that adaptation comes in the form of muscle. You can take a look at any other multi-joint movements and you'll see around the same things, though maybe not quite as good as a squat. Deadlift, you're pulling a massive amount of weight from the floor. Again, quads, hamstrings, low back, all of that is included. Your upper back is there to keep the bar tight against your body. Bench pressing. If you take a look at a bench press, you'll notice both joints working in tandem are at the elbow and at the shoulder simultaneously to press a massive weight off of your chest. No single joint movement can do nearly the amount of weight as multi-joint movements. You can even think of this in terms of bicep curls versus pull-ups, right? A bicep curl, you can get maybe 20 to maybe 40, maybe you got some monster python arms and you can curl 60s, but that pales in comparison to someone doing some chin-ups. I'm at 180 pounds and doing chin-ups is essentially that same bicep curl, but I'm also involving the back while I do it, right? My lats are assisting me as I do a multi-joint movement, and therefore I can do way more weight and break down musculature way more effectively and way more efficiently, which is again going to force my body to adapt faster to those big multi-joint exercises. So when you're going to the gym and you're wondering what to do and you have no idea what to do, choose exercises that involve multiple joints. They involve more technique, and you need to be smart about how you perform them, and you need to have possibly a good coach or at least a lot of research on the YouTubes with someone you trust to pull these off correctly. But when it comes to actually breaking down your body and actually forcing a tough adaptation, stick with multi-joint exercises. Hang with me and we're going to talk about a couple more benefits of the multi-joint exercise and then we'll get going. All right, so to cap this all off, if I haven't convinced you to do multi-joint exercises over single joint exercises, let's just talk about a couple more benefits of these bad boys. One, when you do big multi-joint movements, squat, deadlift, bench press, pull-up, row, all that good stuff, it elicits a bigger hormone response than any other exercises. So you put 300 pounds on your back in a squat, you're gonna beat yourself up a little bit. And not in a bad way, but in a I need to recover way. And the way your body responds to that is when you go to sleep later that night, you're going to have a boost in testosterone and growth hormone. These are things you can naturally up through big multi-joint exercises such as the ones that I just listed. The next thing you should know is that these bad boys are time efficient. What do I mean by that? Instead of going into the gym and doing 20 sets of quad extensions, and then you got to do your hamstring curls, and then you got to do some single arm lat rows and stuff like that. You could literally do 5 sets of 5 of heavy squats and literally hit all the muscles that I just listed right there. And you'd have a massive adaptation to respond to all of that. The movements that are multi-joint use multiple muscles, which means if you got to get into the gym and get out of the gym quickly, you want to do those big compound movements. You want to use movements that hit everything all at once. Are they more taxing? Yes. Is it more difficult to pull off? Yes. Is it a faster amount of time? Yes, it is. They are time efficient. And then finally, everyone seems to look at a deadlift or a squat and they're like, oh my gosh, looks like you'd get hurt doing that. The truth is, when you properly perform these movements and when you take the time to learn how to execute them correctly, they actually prevent injury. People who are great at squatting don't have back problems. People who know how to pick things off the ground and have a great deadlift generally have iron hamstrings that don't get pulled when they decide to do sprinting in some sport that they choose to do. People who know how to bench press correctly have healthy shoulders. They don't have unhealthy shoulders. These movements teach you how to move in the real world. In fact, strength and conditioning movements like these are simply the formal language of movement that you can apply anywhere else. You pick something off the ground, that's a deadlift. You go down, you squat down to go get something out of the bottom floor of the fridge, that's a squat. Knowing how to do that stuff correctly through proper practice in the gym reduces injury all over. Do multi-joint movements. They will elicit great bodybuilding responses. They are fantastic for learning about things in the real world, and they're super efficient. There's no reason to choose bicep curls and tricep extensions if you haven't done a bench press. And same goes for all the other isolation movements over squats and deadlifts and pull-ups and presses. That is where the money is made. Learn how to do them well, and it'll benefit you for the rest of your life. Do it. And as always, if you made it to the end of the video, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe. If you want to drop a comment, I promise you I will respond to it. Love talking about this stuff. I want to spread it as much as I can. The more likes and subscriptions I get, the more the YouTube algorithm pushes this video out to the world. And for my students watching this, you better like and subscribe it. I'm kidding. Do whatever you want. But drop a like, drop a subscribe. Why not? Won't hurt anybody. Till then, I'll see you next time.